Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb, where the armchair astronomer figures out what they're looking at, why it's so cool, and what they should check out next. Don't forget to check out my Podbean page to get this podcast, which is also available on Stitcher and iTunes as well. And also check out my Twitter feed at Mr. Webb PV for random astronomical things in general here and there. Also some alerts for things to actually look at night. So here we go. We've got July of 2017. We've got some nice hot nights, which will get us out there in shorts and t-shirts, but it's going to be later at night or earlier in the morning. But we will witness some close encounters between the moon and our planets. Now, a couple of apologies. One, this is coming out late. I didn't mean to do that. Got caught up in the 4th of July and the planetarium construction, which is also why I'm in a different room. I'm not at the high school, even though the planetarium's at the middle school and everything's under construction. I'm trying to get everything working so that around March we'll be reopening the planetarium to the public and having some interesting things. I'll keep you guys updated on that. But anyway, the roof is being fixed now, and but you don't care about that. Let's talk about the actual night sky. So I'm going to go into the planets and then the events and then the constellations that you can see. So let's start off with planets. What are some of the things that you can see during different parts of the night? Here's what I have on the screen right now. I have it set for about sunset tonight, July 6th. Now you see that Mercury is down here. Now Mercury is going to be kind of hard to see. It's low on the horizon, okay, and that's at sunset, or actually 8:38 is sunset, and it doesn't get dark for a little while. So you might have to wait until 9 o'clock to maybe catch a glimpse of Mercury, okay? But again, it's low, kind of hard to see. Now, what's going to happen to that throughout the month? Well, right around 9 o'clock, it's going to get a little bit higher, maybe a little bit more off to the south, but it's definitely in the west. And then it'll get a little bit easier to see, and then toward the end of the month it's going to dive right back toward the sun from our perspective, and so then you won't be able to really see it anymore. So Mercury, you can check it out. I would suggest binoculars, but you can indeed see Mercury if you try. Now the other two that you can see around sunset are Jupiter and Saturn. Now, let me zoom out here and let me get closer to, let's say, 9 o'clock when it gets a little bit darker. And so you'll see Jupiter and Saturn. And let me go back to today. Today, July 6th, you will actually see Jupiter and Saturn out there, kind of splitting up the south. In fact, tonight, July 6th, you'll see the moon very close to Saturn. Okay? Right up there, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's just talk about those bright lights. Okay, Jupiter is going to be that bright light in the southwest. That's going to be next to Virgo, so they'll be kind of close together. Another way that you can find Jupiter is if you can find the Big Dipper, you can follow the arc of the handle to Arcturus, which is the brightest star in Bootes, and then speed on to Spica, which is the brightest star in Virgo, and then you can see Jupiter right over here. Let's see. Now, it's going to move. It's really the brightest point in that area. You really can't miss it or mistake it for another star because it is the brightest one. It'll move toward the west and set around 12:30. So let me move time forward. You see that Jupiter starts setting, and right around 12:30, it's gone. So you only have until 12:30 to see Jupiter. Now, on the other side of the sky, you will see the moon and Saturn. There it is. Now, Saturn, you have to look southeast after sunset. In fact, if I go back to sunset and then go forward about 9 o'clock, it's off in the southeast. What's going to happen with Saturn is it's going to sort of travel toward the south, get a little bit higher in the sky, and then start traveling toward the southwest. And then it's actually going to set right around sunrise or around 4 a.m., depending on what time of the month you're actually looking. Okay, so if we go back to, again, sunset, but a little bit later at night, you will be able to see maybe Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. Those are the cool planets you can see. And Jupiter and Saturn are perfect for a telescope. Even the most basic telescope, you can see the rings of Saturn, and you can see the moons of Jupiter and the cloud bands on it, which is just phenomenal. Okay. All right. So about throughout the night, well, I already talked about that. That's Jupiter and Saturn. So let's say you stay up till midnight. You'll see Jupiter set after midnight, and then Saturn will set around 4 a.m. And then there is one beautiful planet that you can see in the morning, and that is Venus. Okay. Now, if you want to see Venus, it's going to start rising around, let me rewind, 4 a.m. Okay. As you can see, it's right near Taurus and the Pleiades, which if you get out at 4 a.m., you can actually see all of that together, which should be really nice. And what you're doing with Venus is it's going to be, let's say you're like most reasonable people and you might get up around 5 a.m. around sunrise. You can actually see Venus about 20 degrees high in the east, and it's actually going to be there all month. So if you look, Venus stays pretty much in the same spot all month relative to the horizon. It does move through Taurus, and as you can see, toward the end of the month, it's closer to the Club of Orion. But anyway, there's Venus. I love seeing Venus in the mornings. Very neat to see. Very bright, very brilliant, very different than anything around it. So, all right, so those are the planets for the month. Remember, you've got Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn at sunset, Jupiter and Saturn throughout the night, and Venus in the morning. All right, let's move on to on the night of the 6th, you'll see the moon and Saturn close together. Let me zoom in. In fact, on tonight, they'll be about 2 degrees apart, with the moon about 2 degrees above Saturn. So if you have trouble finding Saturn, tonight is a good night to do that. And then the full moon is going to be on the 9th. So 3 nights later, full moon, that's when the moon is up essentially the entire night and kind of washes out the stars, but it's still good view. And then what happens is really not much at all for the next 7 days. If you go to July, 16th is the last quarter moon. Okay. July 16th is the last quarter moon. The left half is lit up. You can see that from about midnight, and you can even see it into the morning. And then, let's see, not much going on. But if you notice the pattern here, the moon is getting lower and thinner, and it's actually getting, let me go to about 4:45 in the morning, and let's move day by day. See, it's getting thinner and closer to Venus. And on the 20th, on the morning of the 20th, if you get up after 3:30 in the morning, but before sunrise, which is at 5:52, you can find a very thin crescent moon in the east with Venus just 3 degrees off. And so if we look at that like this, you'll even see Taurus up here, but you'll see Venus and the moon close together. And the nice thing is that it's still dark when they're above the horizon. So you don't have to worry about the light if you get out there early enough. Okay? And again, if you've noticed the pattern, you see the moon is getting thinner and thinner and closer to the sun. And then we have a new moon on the 23rd, which means it's flipping over and it's going to start becoming a sunset off in the west object, but not yet. On the 24th, you might be able to catch Mercury and the moon close together right here. All right. So this is a good 2 days. The 24th and the 25th are 2 good days to see if you can find Mercury, because you got a big but dim and still hard to find target, which is the moon. So on the 24th, let's see, we've got look west after sunset on the 24th to see the moon 4 degrees down into the right of Mercury. Okay. Now on the next night, what's going to happen is the moon is going to be about 8 degrees up and to the left, as you can see right there. So on the 25th, up and to the left of Mercury. But both of these times are good times to check them out because there's 2 guideposts there, the moon and Mercury, that'll help you out. Okay. All right, so let's back off a little bit here and let's take a look and see, what's going to happen with the moon? Well, you see Jupiter's there. I bet you it's going to have a close encounter. And indeed, on the 28th, you look southwest after sunset, and you'll see the moon only about 2 degrees directly above Jupiter, which is really nice to see. Again, if you're having a hard time finding Jupiter, this would be a good night because it's right below the moon. But get out before 11 p.m. that night because that's when they set. Jupiter's starting to fade away a little bit. And then we've got a second or another first quarter moon on the 30th where the right half is lit up, and you can see it from, even into the evening before the sun actually sets, up until around midnight. Okay. So those are the events. Nothing crazy, just some close encounters. So let's move on to the constellations.
Are there patterns in our skies? Are patterns only in our eyes?
So if you are looking for constellations, okay, let's go to July 15th. Let's look at the zenith, which is the point straight up above you. Now, if you're going out just after sunset, you're going to start seeing Hercules with the Hercules cluster. If you have a telescope, now's a great time to check that out because it's pretty much right above you. And you also have Bootes over here. Remember, you can find that by following the arc of the Big Dipper's handle and following it to Arcturus, the brightest star in Bootes. So that's pretty much going on right after midnight. And I know some of you are on vacation and you actually stay up and take a look up at the sky. You can also see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, Corona Borealis, which this should be a little more circular here, okay? But it's really neat. You'll see it out there. If you can find Hercules and Bootes, you'll be able to find that. And it's really, really neat. Now, if you wait a little bit longer, let's say you're out, midnight, you're going to start seeing the actual summer constellations. And it is summer, so it makes sense. And you'll see Lyra the harp right above you. Let's see. Yep, zenith is right there at that red thing right there. So Lyra the harp is right there. Cygnus the swan is over here. And if you look down a little bit, you'll see Aquila the eagle. Now, if you've listened to this before, you know that those are the 3 brightest stars in the summer triangle. Vega is the brightest star in Lyra. Altair is the brightest star in Aquila. And Neb is the brightest star in Cygnus, and they form a nice triangle, which even if you're in Wildwood or some sort of beach town that has a lot of lights, or I think even Las Vegas, you can see the summer triangle. You won't see the rest of the constellation or each of the constellations, but you will be able to see those 3 bright stars. And then, let's see, if you wait until around sunrise and you look toward the zenith straight above you, you can see Pegasus and Andromeda. Those are the fall constellations coming in, but you won't see them at midnight for a while because fall isn't here yet. So yeah, I think that's actually where I'm going to stop for today. I really hope that you have a wonderful July, great weather, and lots of clear dark skies for the entire month.